Good afternoon, everybody. It's Debbie Leno here, founder of Luma Life Coaching, creator of The Ageless Woman. And thank you for being here. And I have with me today somebody really special, Jeanine Mellish. Am I pronouncing your name correct, Jeanine?
Yes.
Yes, she is here today. The topic of our interview today is what my younger self wished she knew. And I'm so excited to have her on, and I'm loving having these conversations with women. We have so many cool things to share with each other. She's also a licensed clinical professional counselor with a private practice in Bourbonnais, Illinois, that's just an hour south of Chicago. And she's also a clinical hypnotherapist specializing in trauma, PTSD, and complex PTSD. Her passion is in helping clients discover their true selves and empower them to live their life abundantly. Thank you, Jeanine. This is such a
Mhm.
great topic. You know, I believe that you had a call on your life for this career path. And so, could you share with us more about your story?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me, Debbie. What an honor to join you this morning, or actually this afternoon for you, this morning for me. Um, yes, so my earliest desires to become a therapist stemmed from when I was a teen and having a lot of struggles from my own traumas. I went to a therapist and we did some great work together, and she did a personality inventory. And the career that I was most likely to succeed in was in doing some type of therapy, working with people. And that really started a spark. But it was really the relationship with my therapist, being heard and guided and being seen, and just something very different than I had had in my life. So that's where that started.
Wow, that is so important to have somebody come alongside you at various moments in your life just to support you and listen. Um,
Yes,
we do sometimes we undervalue the importance of listening.
absolutely. I definitely really grew and healed with that listening ear and the kind heart. So, yeah, that's where it all started. And I ended up becoming a mom and got very busy with being a stay at home mom, homeschooling, and threw my life into that role for many, many years. And I went on to, when the kids were getting older, I started feeling restless, and I knew there was something else I needed to do. And that dream came back to life when I was in my 40s, actually, and decided to go back to
Awesome.
school. It was very scary, feeling very old, but now I realize it's not that old. To go back to school and just chase this dream. And now I'm here.
That is so awesome. It is never, never too late in your life to pursue a dream. I say never give up on your dreams. Never think you're too old. And that's part of my whole spiel at Ageless Women is don't let age hinder you in any way. You're not too young, you're not too old to have a calling, to have a soul dream and to get it. And sometimes we have to go through things, don't you think? We have to go through things to get the material, the personal material that we draw from when we enter into these paths.
Absolutely. I think that does bring a richness to my work and the years of living life and parenting and marriage and um, the different traumas that I went through. I feel help with empathy. And also, when you've been through something, it does help to have that understanding of what it feels like. Yeah. So,
That's
yes.
relatable. When people feel that they can relate to you, it makes it much easier to be open for sure. Yeah. So
Right.
so what do you wish your younger self knew? One of my favorite questions to ask women.
What a great question. And I do want to put a link, if we could, at the end. There's a song. I don't know if you are familiar with it. It's from Mercy Me, Dear Younger Me.
Oh, I love that soundtrack. Yeah. Yes, put it
Yes.
on. Link it.
So the song, it really fits. I love having a song go with a message, but the message of the song is all about what I wish I would have known. And one of my favorite lines in that song is, "It's not your fault." And often when there's trauma in childhood, beliefs are formed like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable,
I'm
um,
invisible.
I'm invisible. Yes. And from my understanding in my personal and professional work, those messages end up guiding our life.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and a lot of it's not intentional, it's unconscious, but if you don't feel you're worthy, what choices and behaviors do you choose for your life?
And
And
it's so subtle.
it is, yes. So that is it's one of the things that I do as a hypnotherapist and also in talk therapy is we get back to the root of belief systems, and often they're tied to traumas. And a trauma, it doesn't have to necessarily be something, that we hear in the news as huge, like rape or witnessing a murder. Traumas happen in all different forms, and sometimes it's just a child misunderstanding what an adult is doing.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I have a little personal story to attach in there, and I can clearly. I mean, I came from a lovely family, loving. I came from a really good, enjoyable family, but yet, when I was 7, I was the second child. I was the easy child, so to speak. I kind of busied myself easily, contented, and so therefore, I felt overlooked and unnoticed a lot, to the point where I just kind of felt in my 7-year-old mind that I didn't really have a place and didn't really exist in my family, that I was kind of anonymous.
Mm.
There were 4 other kids, and my personality felt like it kind of got a little lost in the mix. So I took my big brave 7-year-old self and to my mom, and I clearly remember this. It was such a 50s thing for a mom to say or do. I said, "Nobody loves me. I'm running away." And I stomped away. I stomped out of the kitchen after I announced that I was running away because nobody loved me. And
Mm.
and she came right up after me. She goes, "Okay, then I'll come up and help you pack your bags." And I'm like,
Uh,
in my little mind, I'm thinking, it's true. She just validated the fact that they don't love me. They're willing for me to run away. That must mean that they don't care about me. Oh, and so it's a childish, silly thing that many of us blow off those little incidences. But honestly, when I think about the patterns in my life, I very often felt unnoticed, unobserved, that I didn't have a voice, that nobody cared, that, I just developed those thought patterns subconsciously, not
and
realizing.
you not only had those thoughts going, but you had confirmation from your parent.
And from relationships I had gotten into, was repeating same patterns. So yeah, so I totally get what you're saying.
Right.
And for all of you that are out there, it doesn't, I mean, just because you had a wonderful, loving, perfect, is it really a perfect family? I don't think so. But we say things, do things, we're busy, we're overwhelmed, whatever. But often you don't know what your child perceives or thinks. Like, I never said that to my mother, never. I would never say that. I wouldn't say that even to her now, because I knew she did the best she could and she loved me. But at the time, I didn't.
That's what is so difficult for many of my clients and myself included when I did my work to understand that some of the subtle ways that we were traumatized. And there's one in particular that I found intriguing, and I will share a book that I feel is very helpful, and that's emotional neglect. This often happens when someone's saying, "I don't know why I'm unhappy or having anxiety or depressed because I had a good childhood and my parents didn't beat me. I had a home and a roof over my head. I had clothes." But it's not so much what happened as what didn't happen.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's so true. And
the
I would say that's
emotional attunement that wasn't there.
or parents just being too busy to give emotionally.
Mhm.
Figure it out. Go ahead, go do it yourself. Or
Right.
yeah.
And some of those
Mm.
little moments, like for you, end up turning big because there's a primary trauma that happens that in your mind you felt you weren't important or seen. The secondary trauma sometimes I think is worse because now you have a parent that's either confirming your doubt about yourself or doesn't believe you when you're telling something that happened. So just for all you parents out there, don't feel guilt, but
You know,
we can really mitigate the trauma and the damage by just listening and believing our children.
that's such a good point. And yes, by no means, nobody feel guilty out here, please. I've done my share as a overwhelmed parent for sure. But another thought popped into my mind. Oh my gosh, I can remember being around 13, 14, and I felt my nose was too big, my butt was too big, and I didn't feel as pretty as all the other little teenage girls. And at that moment in time, and I can remember saying this to my mother, and this is what, God love her, this is what my mother says. Oh, Deborah, just develop your personality. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, that means I am ugly.
oh, wow.
In her mind, she was trying to take my eyes off of my physical self
Right.
and to develop my other pieces of myself. But at the moment, at 13 or 14, I really didn't need to hear that.
Exactly, because the focus is hyper aware of anything physical on your body and changes that are, your nose grows faster than the rest of you, and that just is normal during puberty. And oh,
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
it's so funny that I look at it now and laugh, but I laugh with fondness because I love my parents and all of that, and I've made plenty of my own mistakes as a mother for sure. And now that I know so much, like you do, about the superconscious mind, I'm so sensitive about it now. I think to myself, oh my gosh, well, so many things I would have done differently knowing what I know now. But
hmm.
yeah.
So back
Oh
to that,
wow.
which I don't think I really answered what I would say to myself. I started talking about beliefs, but I would definitely be kinder and more compassionate and patient with myself. Um, I definitely would be hard. And that's still my tendency. I shouldn't say in the past. It's still a challenge at times to not be hard on myself and punish myself, but definitely more kindness. And I really feel for young moms, I did not give myself much grace. I was pretty hard on myself and I had to do everything. Even if I was very, very sick or exhausted, I would keep pushing myself, which actually made me less available for my kids because then I would be so sick or exhausted that I just couldn't do it. So
I think actually that's a really good message for a younger self, being that younger self, your young mom. So because there's lots of younger selves, like what we could have heard that would have helped us when we were 6, 7, 8, at different ages in our growing up years. But as looking back at yourself for a younger mom, being told it's okay, not everything has to be perfect is a great message to hear
it
and
is.
believe. It's one thing to hear it, but believe that it's okay.
And ask for help. When you're overwhelmed, that's the message, to ask for help.
That's a really good message because there's no reason to suffer in silence about anything. You might think that it's trivial. I think basically, you would probably agree with me here, Jeanine, is if you're in a place in your life where you feel unsatisfied or you don't know what's wrong, but you know that there's something wrong because you just don't feel fully functional, but you don't know why. Reach out. Reach out. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody.
There, there's something just deeply healing about having someone hold space for you to listen. And when you can hear your own thoughts out loud, that's where the answers often come, just by speaking and getting it out of your head and out into someone that's receptive and is able to hold space. So that's important too.
And traditionally, that's been more a thing for women. Women need that's why they need fellowship with other women because they don't necessarily want to go to their husbands or their partners or their, whatever, to unveil. But women they sort outwardly. They sort by talking. That's how they sort their feelings, by talking and sharing. And then it's like, oh, the answer
That's right.
comes, right?
Exactly. And we had talked a little bit earlier about advice giving versus supporting each other. And I feel that's such an important topic, that there's a big difference between going to someone that hears you, holds space for you, and someone that's telling you what to do or tries to fix it for you.
Well, that automatically kicks the other person to, well, just because you said so, I'm not doing it. Well, you don't
Yeah,
say that, but you kind of feel that. You want it to be your own. We all do. We all want it to be our own ideas and our own perceptions or insights. Um, yeah, that's a
right.
really good
Because
thing to mention.
we're
Mhm.
all walking our own paths, and sometimes they look similar, but it's our unique path. And yes, so having someone hold space is like another light on the path that helps you find your own light. And
Oh,
yeah,
yes, that's so cool. I love that.
yes. And as
Mm.
a therapist, we're often mirrors. So we shine back all the beauty we see that sometimes the other can't see.
That is
Yeah.
so true. That is so true. Mm. So along the way in your own journey, what books did you find really helpful that you could recommend if somebody were looking for a really great book? What was really insightful for you?
Well, I found Running on Empty, and I can't think of the title, the author's name at this moment, but I can look it up. That was a really good book on understanding emotional neglect and all the pervasive ways that it affects your personality or interactions. Often people get stuck and like, why do I keep repeating these relationships or repeating this pattern? That's a great one for that. And one for communication that I also enjoyed and learned a lot from is The Dance of Intimacy.
Oh, I've heard about that one.
Yes.
I have got to get that. That's my next one. Okay, you're the third person that has suggested that book as good reading material.
Yes.
I'm gonna write that down just so that I don't forget it. Dancing with Intimacy,
The Dance of Intimacy.
A
Yeah.
Dance of Intimacy.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, doesn't this author have several books?
Yeah. She has a series of Dance of Anger, Dance of Intimacy, and oh, what's the other one I know of? It's another relationship type of book. I cannot think of the title right now, but
And I'll
yeah.
tell you what, you are so privileged if you are happen to be in an authentic relationship. And it is it's hard to be authentic sometimes because sometimes our authentic selves aren't so pretty, so meaning, you have feelings, you have emotions and all that. And so to really uh brave those territories with somebody that you love and trust is quite a gift to have an authentic relationship.
And I can't stress this enough. As we do our own work, it ripples out. So sometimes I'll have someone come in for, they would like to work on their marriage and the other person doesn't want to come in. I would say go for it, even if it's just you. It has effects on the relationship as you change. That's back to the dance. The dance changes when you do a new dance, and the
Love
more
that.
the more you're coming from a healed place and not a wounded place, you don't have to lash out and attack the other person, your partner, or the way you receive messages are all from that wounded place. But as you heal, it's a model for your partner and yourself. Just you will see things differently from that perspective.
That is such wisdom. That is so clearing and so true. Thank you for that.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. Yes.
that is so true. When you begin to change, your world begins to change, opportunities change, relationships change. It's great. Thank you for that.
It is therapy, I feel, and life coaching and other forms. It's a gift for you, but it's also a gift for all your loved ones.
It
I've seen it.
is.
Yes,
Yeah.
because when you can be authentically you, how there's nothing more beautiful in my eyes.
Oh, absolutely. I say take the masks off.
Right. But we often don't even know how many we have on.
Isn't that true? That's true.
Right. And it is scary doing this work, becoming you is we were conditioned from a very young age often to cover up. Even think of the makeup lines, cover girl.
My gosh, I never took that literally, but
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's interesting. Cover girl. Oh my
And
gosh. Yeah.
generationally, what
Mhm.
messages have girls, been taught about, like you had felt the message of not being seen. There's often like major generational messages that come depending on the era. But
Oh,
yeah,
for sure. For sure. And there was really also another thing that I kind of remember in my generation. I was a 50s kid, but there was no such thing as self-love. And in fact, even just if somebody were even to say that, we'd be like, wow, are you conceited? Like it was
right.
not thought of, it was thought of as um, just being really conceited and stuck on yourself and like, ooh, like what's self-love? Like that's not right. But as I've grown and understood the message of that, it's a totally different message from how people perceived it back in the earlier days, 50s, 60s, even 70s.
You're right. That is such a good point because I came from a Christian background, and even I think that was really part of the culture. The Christian culture is it's selfish to take care of yourself or selfish to love yourself. But even in the Bible, love others as you love yourself.
Yes.
Why is that
Yes.
second part forgotten? It's so important.
I love that. Janine, you just brightened my day. That is so true.
And when
Yes, love.
we have our vessel filled, when we have that compassion and love for ourselves, it just naturally spills out in our relationships. It has to come from here too. It can't just be for others, in my opinion. That's what I've discovered.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's the classic, you can't serve from a cup half filled.
Right.
In order to keep pouring, you have to, because no, isn't this the truth? I mean, your boss is never going to tell you don't work too much. Your family members aren't going to say, well, you don't have to keep doing that for me, mom. They don't mean to, but we keep giving, they keep accepting, they keep taking. There's no thought about it. And when you give to the point of being completely worn out, well, then that's no good either.
Exactly. And I think as women we're taught that often taught that message. It's how many things can we balance? How many things can we do in our lives? And the more you're doing, it's like it's bragging rights to be busy. There's this glorification of busyness. And sometimes we're not having those real conversations that this feels too much. I'm exhausted and
Oh
I
my
don't feel like I
gosh.
ever measure up or I could be good enough as a mom or a wife or the other roles we have in our lives.
That is such a good message for today for young moms because I often see it. Young moms have a lot going on, a lot of balls in the air. They want to do everything well and they want to be great mom. Of course, everyone wants to be great mom. They also want to have great careers and great marriages. And there are so many, like you said, there's just so many things that fill our cart. And sometimes you have to put some things over to the side so that you don't get overwhelmed and don't get stressed. And yeah, so yeah, you can't do it all. We shouldn't have to think that we have to do it all at all
Mhm.
times.
And maybe we should be applauding women that say, I'm doing self care today. I'm saying no. No is a good word. It's a full sentence, complete thought.
Yes. Yes, and what I learned much later in life is that you can say no with love.
Absolutely. I
You
would
don't have
love
to be a
to do
snot
this.
about it.
No, I would love to do this. But
Yeah,
yeah, say it in a way
you have
that
to say no.
with love.
You have to, and this is hard too, and it's been hard for me too, is to realize when you're overscheduled, and to make sure you have some open spaces in your calendar for walks or for 5 minutes to yourself or whatever. But
Abs
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so good talking to you today.
You
So
too,
many
Debbie.
good messages. Mm.
Yes, thank you. There's so much more I could say, but I want to respect your time limit.
Oh, well, I don't even love to have a time limit, but I know just from what I see is that people typically have difficulty watching anything, any kind of a recording that's longer than a certain amount of time. So I want to. I'd hate to end this as I will. I think with all my interviews, I'm going to hate ending it because I really have a good time with this.
Aw,
But if anybody out there really resonated with anything that Jeanine has mentioned today, and you'd like to follow up with her, connect with her in some way, just give her a shout. You can see her on Facebook. Jeanine, is there another way for folks to connect with you if they want to?
sure, I can leave a little bit more of my information. Do you want me to do it that way, or I
Yeah,
could?
just give us a shout, or I'll post something afterwards, just making that invitation if anybody wanted to connect with you. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your personal journey, and it's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's an honor.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
It's sunny here in Cincinnati, so I think it might be that way up your way in Chicago.
It's a little chilly, but it's at least sunny.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, as long as the sun's out, I'm good. All
Aw,
right. Mwah. Take care.
bye. You too.